Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to Calls. This is the 2026 Valspar Championship Initial Research Show. Boy, the Players Championship did not go my way at all. I was all in on Colin Morikawa, as were a lot of people. Withdrawing after one hole kind of killed any hope in DFS. Had a slight chance in outrights today with Sepp Straka and Xander. Didn't quite get it done. Obviously, didn't have the Cameron Young outright today. So the Players Championship is one just to flush away, one to forget for yours truly. I hope you had a lot more success than I did. As you can see, the fandom is on. It is March Madness, so I'm going to be representing my favorite team throughout the week. So make sure you drop all of your favorite team chants or any trash talk you want to give in chat. I'd be more than happy to mess around with you on that. But we are here for the Valspar Championship, a pretty long-standing tournament, although not known as the Valspar for quite as long, on a very, very difficult course. We're going to be covering everything tonight to get you ready for the week ahead. So let's get into it. All statistics provided tonight and moving forward are from both Fantasy National and the Rabbit Hole over at BetSperts. The Rabbit Hole has acquired or is merging with Fantasy National. So I am slowly in the process of migrating all of my data and files over to the Rabbit Hole. So bear with me in that process. But the Rabbit Hole has everything you need to make the correct wagers week in and week out. Make sure you have the Cameron Youngs when he wins, the Nico Echeverias at the Cognizant, all of that, and has the DFS optimizer, lineup optimizer, tournament simulator, has everything you need at your fingertips. Go check out the Rabbit Hole over at BetSperts. That way you don't have to listen to an idiot like me. You can make your own decisions and correct me on weeks where I'm wrong, like I was for the Players. If for social media standards, I guess, the links are in the description. I post research every Monday on the PGA Tour regarding some tournament info, patterns of previous winners, players in the field that week who also fit those patterns. I'll have something out tomorrow for the Valspar Championship. So if you want to see the weekly research that I do on the PGA Tour, give me a follow at your preferred social media site. X is also where I place my weekly betting cards and top player usage in the DFS contests I play. That comes out every Wednesday after the DFS Tactics show. So if you want to see the players I've wagered with my own money and the players I'm using most often in my lineups, give me a follow over at X. Lastly, for social media, Gabe's handle's in the description. He writes a great article called The Fringe. Would not recommend it if I did not believe in it. It's been great working with him for the past few years now. He continues to update and improve the content that he provides. So make sure you are subscribed to his article and follow him over on social media. Show him some support. Lastly, for this intro, we are live. Chat's open. Want to hear from you all. How was your Players? What do you think of the March Madness bracket? Anything and everything this week. Put your thoughts and opinions in the chat. It's probably going to be a little bit of a shorter show this evening. I am in line for some pretty severe weather this evening. Not sure when that's supposed to come in. So probably want to have everything shut down before that comes in. So don't be surprised if it's a little bit of a shorter show this evening. But put your thoughts and opinions in the chat. Would love to hear from you. If you're not able to catch the show live, put your thoughts and opinions into the comments. I'll always get to those as well. So let's get into it. Let's do our initial research for the 2026 Valspar. We're going to start, as we always do, on a Sunday evening over at the GCSAA Tournament Fact Sheet. We are in Palm Harbor, Florida. We have been on the Atlantic coast for the entirety of the Florida swing so far. We are now going over to the Gulf Coast in Palm Harbor, Florida at Innisbrook Resort. There are 4 courses at the resort. The championship, or otherwise known as the Copperhead course, is what the players are going to be on this week. for the Valspar Championship. Good evening, Trip. Thanks for jumping in chat. Much appreciated. Waste Management, Hideki, Condescent Lowry, API, Ludwig, and Akshay. Players, Ludwig, Hovland, and Cam last off the card. It's been one of those years for you, seemingly, Trip. Very tough stretch. That is why they call it gambling. That is also, like I said, with the in the intro at least, playing 84% Morikawa kind of just blew up my week from the start. So had a little bit of a chance in the outright market today. Had Xander, had Sepp Straka, had Bobby Mack, who were threatening to contend there. But Cameron Young and Matt Fitzpatrick kind of pulled away towards the end. Xander making that birdie on 18 gave me a breath of a chance. Not a great one. I hate to hear that you're not having a whole lot of success, at least in the outright market, Trip. We're going to try and get back on the winning ways, especially since my week was an unmitigated disaster. There's no other way to put it. Like I said, 84% Colin Morikawa. Daniel Berger, who made the cut and then shot roughly $11 billion on the weekend. DFS was done. So many opportunities to pull away with it. Yeah. Ludwig has a serious Sunday problem. I don't know about that. I don't know if I would tend to agree. I mean, he has won before. He has won twice. Like I said, I've had this conversation with you that I didn't know if he was fully healthy. He's clearly playing better now. I don't know if it's a Sunday problem. Like, Scotty clearly is out of whack. I don't think we're talking about that kind of issue. A lot of people were saying that about Cam Young before, especially a couple years ago when he kept finishing runner-up and all that stuff. So winning on the PGA Tour is hard. TPC Sawgrass is hard. If you're not on the absolute top of your game, it's going to expose you. And Ludwig played well for 2.5 days. And then Sunday he didn't have his best. It kind of happens. You would prefer that to happen on Thursday or Friday as opposed to Sunday. Is what it is. Like I said, I'm not ready to write off Ludwig. I've been low on Ludwig. I've been low on Cameron Young for a while. I think Ludwig is pretty squarely one of the favorites for the Masters, I would say. But it's good to see you in chat, Trip. Very much appreciated. Don't be surprised if it's a little bit of a shorter show this evening. As I said in the intro, I've got some severe weather heading my way, and I want to make sure everything is kind of shut down and all of that before it comes in. But we'll get through everything we need to get us started on the right foot this evening at Innisbrook Resort. This is originally a Larry Packard design. It has been renovated a couple of times, most recently in 2015, I believe. But the 2015 restoration just kind of resurfaced the greens, resurfaced the bunkers. Wasn't a massive overhaul of a redo. The Innisbrook Copperhead course specifically is a non-traditional par 71, meaning we have 5 full par 3s and 4 par 5s for your par 71. That's right, we have 5 par 3 this week. So we are going to be having quite a bit of an emphasis in par 3 scoring. The par 3s here are difficult, common theme throughout Florida. Par 3s are difficult here. They're long, lots of water in play. You're going to have to play them well. Heavy emphasis in par 3s with 5 of them in play this week. The Copperhead course is an average length course, maybe slightly on the longer end at 7,352 yards. I believe that's the same yardage as TPC Sawgrass. Yeah, so Sawgrass is listed at 7,352 as well. Difference being Sawgrass is a par 72. This is a par 71, so it will play a little bit longer than Sawgrass does. We are on the same Poa Trivialis overseeded greens like we saw at TPC Sawgrass. We've seen a couple times already this year. The fairways and the rough are overseeded. The rough is kept pretty darn long, close to 4 inches in length. Not probably as long as what we saw at Sawgrass last week, but still pretty long and can be pretty difficult to play out of. The greens are right about tour average in size. Normally I say 6,000 square feet. That number technically is a little bit lower than 6,000. I just round to a nice whole number. So these are about tour average green sizes, but they're going to play much, much, much smaller. Even though there isn't a whole lot of contouring in them, they are pretty pure, but they sit at awkward angles. And that's going to be something that you hear throughout the week, is that it is going to be imperative that players give themselves the appropriate angle of attack into these greens that tend to be longer and narrower, as opposed to, the nice round greens that you customarily see. Not a whole lot of fairway. Average fairway width, 20 yards. This is the narrowest course on the PGA Tour, especially when you consider that the fairways pinch in at 300 yards, whether that be bunkers, fairway bunkers, or tree-lined fairways. These fairways are very, very narrow, and we'll see throughout this week it is very, very difficult off the tee around the Copperhead course. Some other statistics here: quite a few bunkers, 74 of them, about 4 a hole, 9 holes with water in play. Let's see. New sand has been added to all the bunkers since last year. I'm going to be honest, I'm not an agronomist. I don't know how this is going to affect play. I imagine it improves play, but I really don't know. Second half of February provided great growing weather, so the overseed is thick. Yeah, yada yada. All four Florida swing courses feature rye overseed and fairways, etc. So there's a look at the GCSAA tournament fact sheet for the Valspar Championship and the Copperhead course at Innisbrook. Again, notable things here: Larry Packard design. We are in a non-traditional 5 par 3s, 4 par 5, par 71, measuring right at 7,350 yards, the same yardage as TPC Sawgrass last week. We are on the same Poa Trivialis overseeded greens with thick rough, very, very narrow fairways, hard to hit fairways. The greens are average in size, generally kept pretty firm and fast, generally speaking. 9 holes with water in play, and like I said, very, very, very narrow fairways. So there's a look at the GCSA tournament fact sheet. We'll move over to BetSperts and the rabbit hole and take a look at the players in the field this week. There have been a few field changes. One of the great things about the rabbit hole is that they constantly update. So any field change has already been reflected in the list here. If we take a look at the players in the field who have played the best so far early in 2026, Jacob Bridgman, Nikolai Højgaard, Ricky Castillo, winner in Puerto Rico. Sahith Theegala has been great early in 2026. Batia, off of his API win, made the cut at the actually finished top 15 at the Players kind of quietly. So he's been playing very well. Rio Etsetsune, last week's runner-up. Matt Fitzpatrick is here. Xander is here. So a fairly big name, some fairly big names here this week, when this tournament can struggle for bigger names, especially off of, the API and the Players, 2 big events, and with big events to come up, namely the Masters. A lot of times some of the bigger names might skip this event, but we've got a fairly strong field this week. Ben Griffin, world top 10, OWGR top 10. Brooks Koepka's here. Corey Connors is here this week. Just trying to go quickly through the names down here. Last year's U.S. Open winner, JJ Spawn, is here. Jordan Spieth, Justin Thomas. Your defending champion is Victor Hovland, is coming back to defend his title. The aforementioned Matt Fitzpatrick, Nikolai Højgaard, Patrick Cantlay. Pearson Cootie's had a pretty strong start to the year kind of cooled off a little bit. Rio Itatsune, strong start. Sahith Theegala. Sudarshan, surprising top 5 from Sudarshan this past week. Sungjae's here, continuing to work his way back from injury. Tony Finau, Victor, Xander. So, few big names this week at the Copperhead course. We'll just quickly take a look at, let's see, is Larry Packard in here? He is not. So, even if we wanted to take a look at Larry Packard design courses, not an option for us. The one thing I will tell you is going to be a little bit of a spoiler. This is difficult. It is quite difficult around the Copperhead course. So let's continue moving our way back. When scoring conditions are difficult, your top performers in the field this week for the Valspar: Corey Connors, JJ Spawn, Keegan, Victor, Ben Griffin, Jordan Spieth, Vince Whaley, Rasmus Nergaard Peterson, RNP, Rio Hitatsune, and Bud Cauley. Before we get too much further, let's go ahead and take a look at some course statistics, both here in the Rabbit Hole and over at Fantasy National. You see the scorecard there. Unfortunately, we don't see a lot of the strokes gained stuff like we see later on in the week. This must be a feature early on in the week as they are bringing data in from the previous tournament. You know, we aren't seeing this, the metrics relative to the PGA Tour average. Like, this is Bay Hill from a couple weeks ago. But I've noticed that the past couple of weeks that we are missing those average metrics, at least on the first night. So hopefully we'll have that tomorrow. But let's take a look at Innisbrook and the Copperhead course and see what the Rabbit Hole has to say about it. Again, average length, par 71. Technically a Parkland design, a course type from Larry Packard. Very difficult, or it just says difficult, but it is quite difficult. Poa Trivialis, long rough. This is a less than driver off the tee course. There are several dog legs and forced layups. Yes, they will move tees around to try and present the player with an intriguing opportunity to risk reward or try to cut the dog leg, if you will. Very, very rarely do professionals try to do that. It is much, much more prudent and much more, it's much easier to just lay back and leave yourself with a longer approach around the Copperhead course. So therefore, gaining off the tee is very, very difficult. Gaining on approach is very difficult. We have seen that a couple times now throughout Florida. Sawgrass is that way. API is that way. Difficult off the tee, difficult approach. Now, around the green, fairly easy. Hopefully my software came back up. Just give me a quick thumbs up or a message if I am back. Hopefully, because I just got a notification that OBS, my software, kind of went out. Looks like that severe weather is coming in sooner than I thought. Short game course here at Innisbrook. More putting than approach, which is a little bit surprising. You go up to your top fives, more putting, and then for your winners, they're putting the daylights out. I mean, again, we're not going to ignore the strokes gained approach by any means, but really, you're going to have to be putting well, even just to be in your top 10s and your top 5s, to save your pars and whatnot. It is a little surprising to see approach be that low compared to putting, but around the green's gonna play a factor. Greens get missed here a lot. We'll see that down here. Green and regulation percentage right at 60%, where the tour average is about 66%. So I mean, around the green has a pretty big factor around here. Strokes gained by hole by par. Even though there's only 3 par 5s, they do provide the most strokes gained. Top 5s, little bit exacerbated here. I was surprised to see that the par threes don't provide a whole lot, considering there's 5 of them. But for your winners, there really isn't a whole lot here. My guess is that the players are just kind of scrambling to get par on these. 500ths, 1400s, that's pretty tough. 1800s is really tough. 500ths and 500ths. So really, if you're making par, you're doing okay. Anything more or like birdies are going to be, a little bit, quite a bit more helping in your scorecard. I mean, obvious statements are obvious, but these par threes are difficult. I don't know. It's just a little surprising to see the par threes lack in strokes gained when there are 5 of them. So interesting to note that. We come down here, whole composition. 3 long par threes, 1 extremely long, and 1 mid-length. We do have 1 short, not drivable, but 1 short par 4. Majority are par 4s from 400 to 450, but they will play much longer than that because of the forced layups and dog legs that are prevalent throughout the Copperhead course. The par 5s, 3 under 600 and 1 at 605. You see the historic cut line here. Got pretty easy in 2022 when the winds really died down at -2. But historically, you're looking at like a +2, +3, even a +4 cut. Very, very difficult. Very difficult around the Copperhead course. I mean, last year was a +3. Driving accuracy, quite a bit less here. 60% versus 62 at the average tour course. We talked about the greens being a lot less, but scrambling is a lot easier around here. So around the green, much like what the rabbit hole was saying, not the biggest deal around the Copperhead course. You're just going to have to rely on it a little bit more. 3 putts per round, right around tour average, roughly. Driving distance, you can see all the forced layups and prudence off the tee. One of the shortest average driving distance year over year, and then proximity to the hole is a little bit closer, despite the long iron approaches that come into these greens. There's a look at the Copperhead course from a scorecard and graphical view, both Fantasy National and the rabbit hole. So let's take a look at a few things here just very quickly. We talked about difficult. Let's see. You could look at Florida, I suppose. Why don't we do that? Let's take a look at Florida swing. We'll go back a few years here just to give players enough rounds to make it statistically significant. 32 rounds ought to be enough. So in the Florida swing, meaning from the Cognizant, or formerly the Honda, till the Valspar, your top players in Florida have been Wyndham Clark, Corey Connors, Bud Cauley, Jacob Bridgman, Sahith Theegala, Austin Smotherman, Lucas Glover, Akshay Bhatia, Ricky Castillo, and Aaron Rai. Don't know if I'm in love with that or thinking about that filter, but it's there. Might as well look at it just to see what it says. We'll take a look at off the tee. Gaining off the tee is difficult and very difficult. So your top off the tee players, when it's difficult and very difficult to gain off the tee, let's bring this in to 2025. Those players are Isaiah Salinda, Jesper Svensson, Corey Connors, Taylor Pendrith, William Mao, Michael Brennan, Max McGreevy, Rico Hoey, Davis Thompson, and J.J. Spawn. I also kind of want to look at some good drives gained. Good evening, Darnell. Thanks for jumping in chat. Much appreciated. It's March Madness. You and I have had this conversation quite a bit, so I know where your rooting interests lie. I don't know if you can tell where mine is, but Happy March Madness to you. How did I do last week? It was an unmitigated disaster. No other way to put it. Played 85% Colin Morikawa, which was dead. I mean, I'm only half joking. You know, it was dead before I even woke up. Thursday, it was not good. I did have a couple of outrights today that, you know, kind of teased a little bit. Bobby Mack and Xander, Sepp Straka, but didn't have the Cam Young outright. So, you know, it was not a very good week for me. So I hope you had much more success. And if not, we're going to try and right the ship for the Valspar. Good to see you in chat this evening. Don't be surprised if it's a little bit of a shorter show. I've got some severe weather coming in, and I've already lost connection with my software once. So I do want to look at some good. Let's do. Let's see. Green speed now. Fairway accuracy. I'm gonna say difficult. It's only average because. Actually, I take that back. I just saw something else I liked better. When less than driver off the tee type. Your top good drive players, good drive performers on courses that are less than driver off the tee: Zach Blair, Jimmy Stanger, Aaron Rye, Suter Sean, Matt Fitzpatrick, Lucas Glover, Christopher Raytan, Austin Smotherman, Ricky Castillo, and Ben Griffin. There's your top 10 in good drives. Definitely not going to skip the approach. Definitely one of the more important aspects of golf in general. So we'll look at approach. Single entry had Morikawa. Yeah, I mean he was very popular this week. The game theory would have suggested to stay away from Colin Morikawa. I just thought things lined up well for him. He even played the first hole. This isn't like a Jake Knapp situation from the API. I mean, it just kind of sucks. Just really kind of sucks. There's no other way around it. I was the beneficiary at the Arnold Palmer when Jake Knapp didn't play, and everybody seemingly on the Twitter sphere was up in arms and angry and pitchfork and rioting. I was the beneficiary, so when it happens to me, I can't really get too upset about it. It's just part of it. It just is. Your top approach players got saved a bit with Cam Young. That helps. That's good. Your top approach players so far in 2026 in the field for the Valspar: Austin Smotherman, David Ford, Zicheng Do, Jacob Bridgman, Victor Hovland, Zach Blair, Nikolai Højgaard, Matt Fitzpatrick, Akshay Bhatia, and Johnny Kiefer. I'm going to skip around the green. We will look at around the green throughout the week, but again, like I said, I've got some severe weather coming in, so I want to try to get through the big takeaways of the course. Let's expand this. We are looking at the same courses, and I should remember them off the top of my head, how often we look at this. Poa Trivialis. It's Harbor Town. It's Innisbrook. It is Memorial Park in Houston. We're looking at PGA National. No, we're not. We're looking at Pete Dye Stadium course. Now I gotta go get my notes. I apologize. I should have this memorized. I don't. All right. Harbor Town, Innisbrook, Memorial Park, Pete Dye Stadium course, Quail Hollow, and then the TPCs. So, San Antonio, Sawgrass, Scottsdale. These are the courses listed, or from the GCSAA that have Poa Trivialis overseed. Your top putters on this surface, going back several years, just to make sure it's statistically significant: Matt Kuchar, Denny McCarthy, Jacob Bridgman, Christian Bezuidenhout, Ben Griffin, Chad Ramey, Billy Horschel, Rasmus Højgaard, Akshay Bhatia, and Bo Hostler. Wondering if the Players is in here yet. It is not. Okay. So this might change come tomorrow night. Last thing we'll look at in the rabbit hole, definitely going to be looking at some scoring metrics. Let's bring this into 2025. We're definitely going to filter for difficult and very difficult. It's bogey avoidance. Pars are great scores around the Copperhead course. So you're definitely going to need to avoid bogeys if you're going to perform well at the Valspar. Your top bogey avoiders when scoring is difficult and very difficult: Webb Simpson, Vince Whaley, Michael Brennan, Ricky Castillo, Christopher Rayton, Corey Connors, Mac Meisner, Stephen Fisk, Matt Kuchar, Adrian Sadier, and Danny Willett. Last thing we're going to look at this evening is the strokes gained total or historical performance at the Valspar the past 5 years. I think it's comfortable going back 5 years, even though I believe it was 2021, maybe it was 2022 that was played in April, but it didn't. I don't think the course played entirely different enough to exclude that year. So your top performers at the Valspar the past 5 years, your strokes gained total leader is Justin Thomas.